Alright, so we're back here again in the shed, back on the Cerbera today. Just sort of an update of where I'm at. As you can see, I haven't really progressed far since my last video at this point, but I'm getting fairly close to the point where I might be able to drop this back into the car. So a couple of small jobs I need to do first. If I walk over here, yes, I'm underneath the car. I've got to fix this. I know I've been talking, I have talked about it before, that it's one of those things it's not a real pleasant job, so I've kind of been putting it off. I've taken, yeah, you can see some of this shielding here is, I've taken it off there. That needs redoing. Also at the front here, for those of you who don't know, well, that's the Cerbera. You can just see it in there. That's the oil cooler. Now to get, well, and it's leaking. I don't know if you can see that there. Well, even with the car not running, it's slowly dripping oil. So they're actually really hard to get to. You got to take the radiator out. You got to take the aircon cooler out. Which is in there, as you can see. So I know I've got to do it. I don't know whether it's just a fitting needs nipping up or there's something more serious than that. It is a brand new cooler, brand new hoses, new fittings. So I'm hoping I'll just have to tighten it up. And then also I've got these here, these what would you call them, little bracket clip things to go behind the brake pads, because this car, you know, it's all well and good having a fancy sports car, but when you pull up at the lights and it squeals like a stuck pig, yeah, it kind of takes the fun out of things. So yeah, I've got to install those. I hope I got the right ones, the right sort of pad caliper combination, but yeah, it's not critical to getting the car going again, but it's one of those things I've sort of put off, and yeah, it's in the back of my mind, so yeah, I've got to get it done. Now, starter motor. This is the original solenoid with its mutilated terminal that I tried to cut back to an M6 thread. Look, it probably would work, but I'm not really confident with it, so I ordered another one, because this apparently is a Nissan starter, or yeah, a copy of a Nissan starter or whatever. So I ordered this solenoid off a this is from a petrol Nissan Patrol. It didn't quite look like this in the description. It looked more like this, but as you can see, we got a bit of a difference going on here. So this is the new spring, old spring. This new solenoid didn't have a spring inside it, but this one from the old solenoid fits. And this is the new plunger, I guess you call it, and that's the old plunger. So obviously this isn't going to work. Well, I don't know, maybe it will work, because this part here basically has to reach inside there and hook around this, and that pulls that, which throws out the pulls a lever here and throws this gear out. Now, maybe it will work inside the longer solenoid, I don't know. Might give it a go, but I'm going to put it all together with a new solenoid, give it a bit of a bench test here with a 12-volt battery, and see what happens. Righto, hello again. It's been a few days since the last take, so I thought I'd let you all know where I am. Motor is together on the bench, alternators in, throttle bodies are on, water rails, exhaust. Now I did have some drama with the exhaust. I ended up having to helicoil a couple of bolt holes on the head, which nearly had me in tears, but you get that from time to time. Yeah, it was a very there's very little wriggle room with these when you put them on, so I kind of ended up in a situation where you'd end up with a couple of bolts were sort of you could screw in by hand, and the others they just had quite a side load on them. So and yeah, that's where it went wrong. So I actually ended up, these holes are 9mm, and a couple of them I just ended up drilling out to 9.5mm. Just another 0.5mm just to give me enough wriggle room to actually be able to get these things on without damaging anything. So yeah, that's all on. I got to what have I got to do? I've got to screw a few fittings in. Of course I cleaned and clear coated all this stuff, but now it's all got grubby fingerprints on it. Bought a big heap of fasteners because ultimately I want to replace all these bolts here with the stainless. So yeah, I bought a heap of them. Now the big issue, the big hold up. I don't know how, but somehow my starter motor died sitting on the bench. So what I did is I thought, well, I'll get a new solenoid. That must be it. Obviously that's it. Connected it up. Well, sorry, let me rewind a bit. If you look on there, this is the lug for the solenoid that I machined down. The bolt hadn't been done up tightly, and the thread was all stripped, so I machined it down to a M6. Well, just basically attacked it with a grinder and then put a die on there and cut it back to an M6, but I wasn't really happy with that, so I thought, well, I'll see if I can just get another solenoid. And sure enough, on eBay, because these are a Nissan based starter, you can get the solenoid, you know. So the solenoid that came, as you can see, doesn't exactly match the one that was on there, but yeah, long story short, changed the solenoid, hooked it up with just some wires straight off this 12-volt battery, and it was dead, and I couldn't even get the motor to turn. Even if you went, you know, bypass the solenoid straight to the motor wouldn't even turn. So I took it to the starter motor, or the auto electrical joint, and they had a look at it and they said, no, it's kaput. So I've got it on order. There's a few different options with starter motors for these. You can go all out and spend like 800 or 900 pounds, and plus being in Australia, add the shipping on top of that. Or you can scratch around and try and find a Nissan Maxima starter motor. They're not very common. It's a Nissan Maxima. It's quite a narrow year. It's like 91 to 95 V6. That has this sort of distinctive style with the what do you call it? That sort of mounting pad mount or something they call it. So I was going through the piston head forums, and I saw a few people in there say, well, yeah, I just run a Nissan Maxima on one on mine. It's been alright for a few years, so I ended up doing that. I found a place in Eastern Australia that sells them, so I've got one of them on order. What else? I've got to put the injectors there, injector rail here. I blasted that, clear coated it, well, cleaned it all out, blew it all out with air, took all the fittings off it, yeah, cleaned it out, and that's ready to go back on now. And another thing I'm going to have to do at some point is air conditioning. Now, some of you may remember with my air, here we go, here's the other fitting that fits under this plate. I actually adapted a BA Falcon air conditioning compressor because they're cheap as chips and they're stacked 10 high at the wreckers around here. So whereas the one that they originally used, when I went searching for one of them, they was, you know, $1,400, and the only one I found was in the Czech Republic or from one of the TVR specialists, and yeah, they were expensive. So this bad boy, I paid $110 from a wrecker, and I haven't had a good run. I got the first one I got adapted, put on there, and in order to adapt it, you see on these little tabs here, they come standard with a bolt that goes all the way through, just goes all the way through. But because of my mounting configuration on this plate here, I actually have to sort of drill them out a little bit and tap a thread in there, just because of the way that I've got it mounted, although I may change that. So yeah, basically the first one I got, I drilled and tapped the holes, mounted on there, and it was dead on arrival. Just didn't work. Straight from the wreckers, you know, $100 I paid for it. The second one worked, but I managed to destroy it doing silly things with barbecue gas. And if you ever regassing your aircon at home, well, don't put the gas bottle upside down, because liquid gas just goes straight into the compressor, and compressors don't compress liquid, and that was that. So I need another one of them, but this time I might just get a new one. They're like $450, but I haven't made my mind up, and that's something I can do basically after everything else is together, so I don't need to wait on that. So yeah, at some point I'm going to have to get clutch lines made up, and yeah, now when I put the fuel rails on, put all those these little fiddly fittings on the throttle bodies, and yeah, then I'm going to come to the job that I've kind of been dreading, and that's wrapping these exhausts. I've done it before on other exhausts. It's not a fun job, but I can't put it off forever, so it's at the point now where, yeah, I've got to do it. So I've got a big thing of wrap there, heap of these stainless cable ties. Yeah, that's it. So just 101 little jobs that I've got to get stuck into. Alright, so next problem I've run into, the injector rails. Those of you who've ever worked on a Cerbera will know the injectors, for whatever reason, are an incredibly tight fit in this in the rail. Now I'll get into the light where I can show you. Once they're in there and you go to pull them out, they're actually, they come out fairly easily. I think what the issue is the if you look there, there's kind of almost a bit of a taper there that acts to sort of compress the O-ring as you're pushing it in, and that taper is sort of way too rough and way too steep, and it just damages O-rings. I've gone through quite a few O-rings on these. I mean, even if you need to remove the rail to do some other job, you end up damaging O-rings when you put them back together. And then of course, you know, you go to start the car and you got fuel going everywhere, and even though the injectors might not have been the original reason you took the injectors out, you've now got to redo O-rings. So kind of part of my the idea I had with this vehicle is, because they weren't exactly, you know, finished off perfectly from the factory, is I try and sort of come up with a permanent solution to each problem. I mean, that's why you know, like well, it's not there now, but the pulley, you know, the pulley that I've got on the front, I adapted one from an LS1 V8 rather than sort of use whatever obscure Fiat roller or whichever roller it was from factory. That's why I made my own coolant header tank, just so I don't have to deal with the drama of taking the original Audi one in and out, and where you sort of need fingers that are, you know, a foot long to get in underneath. And so I've just kind of trying to fix things once and never have to go back to it again. So in this case, I want to sort of, I went and saw my helpful neighbour, and he lent me this hone. So what I'm going to try and do is, you can see, it's a bit hard to show you with one hand, but you kind of see when you put it in there, wow, it wants to sit on an angle anyway. Maybe that's not that much, but I want to try and just clean up that taper so it looks sort of almost like raw castings, like it was never machined. It was just sort of cast with a little tiny bit of a rounded edge there. I want to try and put a proper taper on that, so when as you push the injector in, it's sort of compressing the O-ring over a space of, you know, 3mm rather than 0.5 millimetre, and hopefully it won't pinch O-rings, and it'll be an easier thing to live with and service. So wish me luck. Alright, so I thought I'd try and give you a one-handed shot of this. See, I've got my hone in there. Now I've got to be careful, because if I push too hard, it pushes actually into the bore where the injector sits. See, I'm watching quite closely here. I don't actually want to remove material from that area. That's not the problem. It's that sort of the lip. So yeah. All right. Just turn the compressor off for a second. All right, let's see, is this? Oh. All right. There you have it. So that's got me thinking now whether I should do that on all the intakes. See, the intakes have got, they're not as bad. All right, I might be onto something here. Righto, so this is the end result here. I kind of need my glasses on just to see the end results myself, but hopefully you'll be able to see. Yeah, each one of these now has got a, well, I kind of deburred it, really just a deburring. I even did the where the fuel pressure regulator goes in at the back. The fuel pressure regulator actually is the same size as the injectors and uses the same O-ring and has the same problem, although not as bad. It's a bit easier with that because you've got two bolts that are centered, just pull it down evenly. So yeah, you're not doing it by hand, it's a lot easier. So yeah, quite pleased with that. I'm gonna put it all together now. Alright, so I'm pretty happy with the way that rail turned out, but I'll just sort of point something out to you. The regulator, I took this off this morning to clean the rail out, put it back on, I took it out, saw that it had a pinched O-ring, put a new O-ring on, cleaned the rail out, put it back on, and I've taken it off, and I don't know if you can see that, it's a bit hard to see, but I've torn the new O-ring up. That was before I did my hone trick. And 2 injectors again have, again it's hard to see, this one it's almost wow, it's damaged. I've got 2 injector O-rings that are damaged, but my neighbour had a couple of spare O-rings, so I'm kind of over this, so I'm just going to go down the shop and see if I can get myself a packet of 100 O-rings, and I shouldn't have this problem anymore with that little deburring operation. So yeah, I'm off to the shops. Alright, so injectors are on. I actually cheated a little to put them in. Those of you who've never seen this before, if you look at the setup for the injectors, it's the angle that they work on, you've kind of got to push them in one side, pull this over to say to this side, squeeze these down, and they don't just drop in like a normal rail on a like an LS or a any sort of straight 6 Jap motor or a barra or whatever. So to make it just a little bit easier, I actually sort of backed off these screws in here, and just because I could, I've got access to it, just give me a little bit more wriggle room. But yeah, that's just trying to rub the grubby fingerprints off. But yeah, that's worked out well. So yeah, now I'm on to wrapping the exhaust, which, as I said, is a job that I been putting off. Starting to wonder whether I would have been better off leaving the exhaust off the car, but well, maybe not, I don't know. So yeah, I've got my if you've never done this before, these exhaust wraps got a heap of fiberglass in them, and they'll give you the itch, so you got to wear gloves. So I've got these super duper orange latex gloves, heavy duty things. So yeah, going to get stuck into that now. In particular, I don't know if you're going to be able to see this, but oh yeah, I've kind of torn into it a little bit, but that's in the top of the engine bay, just below the brake booster and so on. There's obviously quite a bit of heat. Hey, that's all got to be replaced. There's obviously quite a bit of heat at this point here, so I'm guessing that's around this region. So obviously I have to pay a bit of attention to that. But yeah, all right, see how I go. All right, well, thank goodness that's over. I've wrapped the exhausts. Not a perfect job, so I ended up with a little bit of a gap here, but yeah, it's all right. It's good enough. Yeah, it actually wasn't too painful a job. As far as sort of any tips for doing this sort of thing, one tip I did pick up, well, I didn't come up with it myself, saw it on a YouTube video, is once it's all on there, get your high temperature exhaust paint and this stuff, and just soak the wrap. The idea being that if the straps, the little ties, loosen off, that the wrap itself is kind of solid, you know, because it's got all this dried out paint on it, and it reduces the chances of it sort of fraying at the edges and so on. I've actually I've put a fair bit on there, but I'll probably go over and there's a bit of a join here, but that's all right. So yeah, I'll probably put a few more coats on it. So what's next? I'm gonna move a few things, and then I'm going to get underneath and while I'm in heat shield mode, I might start doing this this heat shield here. Redo that. I've got to redo it up there, and then at some point I've got, I don't know if you can make it out there, but I've got this oil slick, growing oil slick here from a little leak in the cooler. I don't know if you can see that, the cooler in there. Actually, I might be able to. No, it must be the fitting. I can't quite reach it from here. It must be the fitting, the lower fitting that's leaking. Yeah, and lower it down, put the battery on charge. I have charged the battery a few times since it's been off the road, but it's due another charge just so I don't have to spend 150 bucks on a battery once the engine's back in. And yeah, so I'll be back shortly with my new heat shield. Right, so here I am under the car. It's first things first. I mean, this isn't a body off resto, so I'm just going to replace the heat shielding that was most damaged, perished, whatever you want to call it. Now, I've taken this section of heat shielding off, and rather annoyingly, it's just left this plastic film. So obviously I don't want to stick my new heat shield to that. So I'm going to, guess what I'm going to be doing for the next couple of hours. Yeah, maybe there's an easier way. Yeah, maybe I could put some brake cleaner on there, I don't know. I'll see, I did try put the old steam cleaner out that my missus you know, bought for me to use underneath cars, but that, yeah, it basically didn't touch it, so I've got the same problem over this side. Although I did clean all up here. See, this is the part that got burnt, so I probably don't want to mess with that. Yeah, that looks like it sort of damaged the glass a bit there. That's quite brutal, but I should be able to clean this up, this section here up, but it's just down the bottom here where it's yeah, got that horrible, it's almost like a cling wrap or something on there. Anyway, I don't know, I'll see, maybe there's I'll try in a small area first, maybe there's some sort of solvent can dissolve it. And for my oil leak, I'll grab the light, I'll try and show you wherever this oil leak is coming from. I can get my whole hand in there. Yeah, maybe I can do that. There you go. As you can see, there's oil over the floor, but up at the other end, I don't know how well you saw that, but and you look at that fitting there, that's bone dry. And the fitting down the bottom, it's I don't know if you can see that, but yeah, that fitting there is actually dry. So this did have a leak with the old oil cooler. The old oil cooler looked like it had sort of been at the bottom of the ocean, and the hoses were, when I actually went to undo the hoses from the oil cooler, the oil cooler just disintegrated. So, but then you look along here, and as I said before, this car was a write-off, and well, it had front end damage, and that's why it ended up, when they repaired it, they went from the original 2 headlight to the 4 headlight front end. And I think along here, when I had the radiator out, I think there's kind of 2 overlapping seams of glass that aren't very well sealed, and I know there's oil that from the original leak that's sitting in there. So I'm wondering if that's what I'm seeing here. Are they? Yeah. So basically I vacuumed it all out. It might not look like it, but I did vacuum it out, and got it, squeezed a rag in there, dried it all out. So I'll see tomorrow morning if it's full of oil again. Well, I'm guessing it's probably coming from the cooler. So yeah, it'll be radiator out. But for now, I've got to work on trying to make the tunnel there, transmission tunnel there, suitable to stick my my U-Butte heat shield. Alright, wish me luck. Righto, so I've made a bit of progress with the heat shielding. As you can see, all nice and new there and there. Still needs a bit of tidying up at the edges. I'll probably place a strip here, just a bit of a lip to cover that area there that's hasn't been covered. And you see the chassis rails there. I'm hoping, well, what I'm going to do is basically I'll those chassis rails, they were at some point coated with, like just this the old school tar type coating, which I'm actually quite a fan of. You know, there's a reason manufacturers cover the whole underside of their cars with that tar. It doesn't chip. Yeah, it doesn't wash away. All this stuff that's washed away here, that's either come off due to heat from the exhaust up in that area. But down here I actually scraped some of that away. I scraped some of that away with a scraper because, as I said before, I think this car's made a trip or two into the sand trap at our local raceway, because every time you get into a nook or cranny it's full of dirt and sand and gravel. So I don't think it's being deliberately used off-road, but it has made some trips off-road. So yeah, that's what I'm going to do. I've got the battery on charge with my U-Butte high amp charger. I haven't charged the battery for a month or two, so probably 3 months. So I'll do that. Yeah, motor's pretty much ready to go in. I'm just waiting on the starter motor, and then yeah, that'll be it. Now that I've done that heat shield is a pain in the ass. Like, I think if you can see just down there, there's a section there where I couldn't fit the heat shield in between the chassis and the body. I think that was added originally because this had the chassis replaced in 2007, so I'm guessing they've gone through and done all the heat shield underneath at the same time. But of course, to go back now and try and squeeze that heat shield between the chassis and the body, especially once you've peeled off that adhesive coating, yeah, it doesn't work. So, but that region there where it was burnt, and that region there where it was burnt, they sort of correspond with these areas here on the exhaust. So I'm hoping my wrap, so you got a bit of a dag there, but it's all solidified with the paint. So yeah, I'm hoping my wrap there will help. So yeah, that's it. That's about it for this video. I'm hoping on my next break, I go away Wednesday for 2 weeks, but on my next break, the second week, there's the Jinjing Classic Car Show. I'd like to get ready for that. Whether that happens or not, I'm not sure. I'm waiting on a Mr. What's his name? Messling. Someone Messling for some new. Well, if you're on any of the Cerbera Facebook pages, you would have seen him selling his parts for Cerberas, but basically a quick disconnect bonnet mount. So I really want to get that in before I put the bonnet on. And yeah, as you can tell, the car is absolutely filthy. Just look at that. I don't know if you can see that, but yeah, yeah, she's pretty dirty. But yeah, that's about it for this video, and hopefully next time crane the engine will be on a hoist and going back in the car. So yeah, I'll see you then.